Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. Last week, Karnataka Assembly Speaker K.R. Ramesh Kumar disqualified 17 MLAs for the entire term of the ongoing 15th Assembly. These include 14 from the Congress and 3 from the JDS till the end of the current term, that is, till 2023. The Speaker said his action was based on the petitions moved by the Congress and the JDS to disqualify the rebel MLAs who had also submitted resignations as Assembly members and were absent during the trust vote sought by the previous Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy. Now, the move, being seen as a stern and unprecedented one, is likely to be challenged by some disqualified legislators in court who argue that it is against the anti-defection law. Experts are of the view that it runs counter to the Bombay High Court's latest judgment in the Goa Assembly case, wherein the High Court held that disqualification under 10th schedule cannot debar a legislator to go back to people and get re-elected during the term of the present Assembly. Today in In-Depth, we analyze the disqualification rules under the anti-defection law, the purpose of the law, and the recent defections that have taken place in different states. Well, it wasn't until 1985 that a law to curb defection was enacted by the Parliament. So what led to such a law being passed and what does the law provide for? Here are the details of what the law says in this report.
The anti-defection law tries to provide a stable government by ensuring that legislators do not switch sides and reduce governments to a minority midway during their tenure. The anti-defection law is contained in the 10th schedule of the Constitution. It was introduced by the 52nd Amendment in 1985 during Rajiv Gandhi's tenure. It became effective from 1st March 1985. The anti-defection law lays down the process by which legislators may be disqualified for defection. The decision of disqualification is taken by the presiding officer of a legislature based on a petition by any other member of the House.
If you have been elected on the ticket of a particular political party, then you are supposed or rather required under the Constitution to continue as a member of that particular political party. But if after the election you join that particular party which has been defeated by the people at the elections, then you are in a way betraying the faith that the people have put in you while electing you as their representative and as a candidate of a political party.
Legislators are considered to have defected if they either voluntarily give up membership of their party or disobey directives of the party leadership on a vote. The law applies to both Parliament as well as state assemblies. Originally, the Constitution carried no reference to political parties. The need for anti-defection law arose in the late 1960s as defections brought about great instability in the political system. Things changed in the 1967 elections that marked the beginning of the coalition era. Between 1967 and 1971, close to 142 MPs and over 1,900 MLAs defected to other parties. In 1967, a Haryana MLA, Gaya Lal, changed his party thrice in one day, inspiring the phrase Aya Ram, Gaya Ram in Indian politics. Many legislators changed parties continuously, causing governments to fall, both at the centre and the states.
For a long time, before the anti-defection law came into existence, there was this issue of members of assemblies in the state as well as in Parliament switching parties for various reasons. So in 1985, an amendment was made in the Constitution to prevent switching of parties and disqualifying those members of parliament and state legislative assemblies who did not vote or who sort of relinquished their membership of the original party through which they had got elected.
While the challenge stayed, it took 17 years for Parliament to address defections. In 1985, the Rajiv Gandhi government brought a bill to amend the constitution and curb defection. The 10th schedule, containing the anti-defection law, was added to the constitution through this amendment. The anti-defection law was later amended in 2003 by the 91st Amendment Act. The law before the 2003 amendment defined defection by 1/3 of the elected members of a political party as a merger. A merger avoided the penalty of disqualification under the Act and led to large-scale defections. The 2003 amendment stated that at least 2/3 of the members of a party must be in favor of a merger to gain validity before the law. The amendment also made it mandatory for all defectors to resign from their legislative membership and seek a re-election in the House.
As the anti-defection law states that if a certain number of MPs of a particular political party or MLAs of a political party, that is 2/3 of the total strength of the party, decides to move out of that party and either form a new party or merge with another party, then they can do what they want. But if the number is less, then they stand to be disqualified. But yes, this issue is there that a single member, of a big party, if it is not 2/3, because there are parties which have only single members or 2 members. So if a single member wants to vote on the basis of his understanding of the law in a particular case, then he stands to be disqualified unless he seeks the permission of the party that in this particular case he may be allowed to vote according to his conscience.
While the law has been largely successful in serving its purpose time and again, courts have expressed concern over delay in deciding such petitions. The law does not specify a time period for the presiding officer to decide on a disqualification plea. Since courts can intervene only after the decision of the presiding officer, the petitioner has no option but to wait for the decision to appeal. The delay also leads to defective members continuing to be members of the House. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Political defections aren't anything new. Any single party alone cannot be held accountable for what happened in the southern state of Karnataka. In recent times, defections have taken place in the state of Tamil Nadu, Goa, as well as in the Rajya Sabha, where 4 out of 6 TDP members resigned and joined the treasury benches. In this report, let's take a look at which defections are deemed valid and which instances attract disqualification provisions.
The anti-defection law was brought back into focus by the political crisis in Karnataka. It started with 15 MLAs resigning on 6th of July. In the days that followed, former Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy was defeated in a motion of confidence. The trust vote was itself taken after multiple missed deadlines. The Karnataka Assembly is a 225-member house, including 1 nominated Anglo-Indian MLA. Speaker Ramesh Kumar disqualified 17 MLAs, bringing down the strength of the house to 207. That excludes the Speaker. This brought down the majority mark in the Assembly to 104. The BJP has 105 MLAs and the support of an independent MLA, who was till recently a minister in the former H.D. Kumaraswamy government. Disqualification under anti-defection law bars MLAs punished for defection from occupying an elected office. Speaker Ramesh Kumar has ruled that the disqualified MLAs can't contest elections till the term of the current assembly ends, which means the disqualified MLAs can't contest polls until May 2023 unless the House is dissolved before that.
As a matter of fact, a lot of experts have said that in the context of what has been happening in Karnataka recently, there should be a time frame for which disqualification should take place. For instance, as the Speaker of the Karnataka Assembly has done, he has disqualified the members for the rest of the tenure of the Assembly, that is till 23rd May 2023.
In 2017, in a similar case of defection in Tamil Nadu after J. Jayalalitha's death, 18 MLAs of the ruling AIADMK were disqualified. This was after they asserted that rebel TTV Dinakuran was the true leader of the party. Last year, the Election Commission ruled that the rebel MLAs could contest by-election necessitated by their disqualification. Then Chief Election Commissioner O.P. Rawat said, defection disqualifies MLAs from holding the current elected office, but not from contesting elections in future. The by-polls were held in April this year, and 14 of the disqualified MLAs had contested them. Goa also witnessed defections. 10 of the 15 Congress MLAs, including leader of the opposition, Chandrakant Kavlekar, broke away from the party. Assembly Speaker Rajesh Patnekar recognized the group, indicating that the merger of the two-thirds of the Congress legislature party with the BJP was valid under the anti-defection law. The next day, all 10 joined the BJP in presence of the Working Party President JP Nadda in Delhi. The tally of BJP rose to 27 in the 40-member assembly. Similarly, in Telangana, 12 of the 16 Congress MLAs merged with the TRS. The Congress's strength in the 119-member House came down to 18 after the party's Telangana State Unit Chief, Uttam Kumar Reddy, tendered his resignation from the Assembly after being elected to the Lok Sabha from Nalgonda. The 12 MLAs account for two-thirds of the Congress Legislature Party, which has an effective strength of 18. They did not attract provisions of the anti-defection law. In June this year, 4 TDP Rajya Sabha MPs in Andhra Pradesh switched sides in the BJP. The TDP had 6 MPs in the Rajya Sabha when 4 of them, TG Venkatesh, YS Chaudhary, GM Rao and CM Ramesh, announced that they were joining the BJP. They met Rajya Sabha Chairman and Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and submitted their resignations from the TDP. Defections have been part of India's democratic process ever since the first elections in 1952. Parliament amended the constitution in 1985 in an attempt to stop this menace and brought in the anti-defection law to deny the rules under which it can be done. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And time for a short break on the program. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching In Depth. The disqualification rules under the 10th schedule of the Constitution does not clearly state if such a decision via Speaker prevents a member from contesting a by-election and re-enter the House after disqualification. Now, there have been several cases when disqualified MLAs have contested by-elections as their seats go vacant and then re-entered the House. In this report, let's look at the disqualification rules mentioned in the anti-defection law and exceptions, if any, to the disqualification provision.
The anti-defection law came into effect on 1st March 1985 to prevent political defection by legislators. Its purpose was to prevent party hopping, ensure that candidates are loyal to the party, and also curb dissent against party policies. As per the law, there are 2 grounds on which a member of a legislature can be disqualified. 1. If the member voluntarily gives up the membership of the party. Voluntarily giving up the membership is not the same as resigning from a party. Even without resigning, a legislator can be disqualified if by his conduct the Speaker or the Chairman of the House concludes that the member has voluntarily given up membership. Second, if a legislator votes against the direction of the party and his or her action is not condoned by the party. This also applies to independent lawmakers or nominated members who join a party.
2 grounds have been mentioned in the 10th schedule of the Constitution. One is that if a person voluntarily gives up the membership of the party. Second is if he votes in the House against the direction of the party in terms of any legislation or any other issue that is being debated and which is going to be voted on in the House.
However, certain clauses provide exception from disqualification. If at least 2/3 of the members of a particular party decide to merge with another party. In such a scenario, both members who have defected as well as those who have not will be protected from disqualification. Another exception is if the original party merges with another party. Also, the decision to disqualify lies with the Speaker or Chairman of the House. The Supreme Court has interpreted different provisions of the law in different ways in different cases. For example, the law provides for a member to be disqualified if he or she voluntarily gives up his or her membership. However, in the Ravi Naik versus Union of India case in 1994, the Apex Court interpreted that in the absence of a formal resignation by the member, the giving up of membership can be inferred by his conduct. In other judgments, like the G. Vishwanath versus the Honorable Speaker, Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly, Madras, and another case, 1996, and Rajendra Singh Rana versus Swami Prasad Maurya and others, 2007 case, the Supreme Court ruled that members who had publicly expressed opposition to their party or support for another party were deemed to have resigned. The anti-defection law initially said the decision of the presiding officer is not subject to judicial review. But the Supreme Court struck down this condition in 1992, thereby allowing appeals against the presiding officer's decision in the High Court as well as the Supreme Court. But in several other cases, including the recent Karnataka MLA's case, the top court held there may not be any judicial intervention until the presiding officer gives his or her order.
The matter has been before the court for various reasons, and one of the things that the court has done is that earlier the authority of the Speaker was supreme, but now the court has said that it is subject to judicial review.
Several recommendations have been made in the past to remove shortcomings in the anti-defection law.
Naturally strengthening would mean amendment to the existing provisions to remove these effects. If you say that a person who is disqualified, he shall be disqualified for the entire period of the assembly or the Lok Sabha, that will amount to strengthening, because in that case they will have to think.
The 1999 Law Commission suggested that mergers should not be exempt from disqualification. There have also been demands that the decision to disqualify should be taken by the governor or the president on the advice of the election commissioner instead of the speaker. The Constitution Review Commission of 2002 suggested that defectors should be barred from holding any public office. Civil society groups have also suggested that voters should be given the right to recall MPs and MLAs who have defected. There are also demands to review the law so as to end conflicts between the legislature and the judiciary. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So that's it from us in today's edition of In Depth. We'll be back same time tomorrow with an analysis on a different subject. You can also watch our program online on YouTube and Twitter on the link given below on your screen. In fact, you can also send your feedback and suggestions about our program. Thank you very much for your time.